In this video, we'll talk about demand distribution. What is it? How does it work? How to plan investments for your new products. Also, we'll talk about how to plan your inventory and what to focus on in order to increase your profitability. Our guest today is Orion Avidan, and I'm hosting this session together with Liz, which works with different Amazon brands. If you like this session, if you find anything useful, don't forget to click thumbs up button below this video. Hello Orion, it's nice to have you here. Could you please introduce yourself and explain what do you do in the Amazon industry?
Thank you, Augustus. Hi, everybody. My name is Orion, and I'm from Retail Adventure. I'm an inventory balancing specialist. This means I help Amazon sellers and e-commerce sellers flow their inventory, creating a better cash flow and better profitability from sales.
Could you please tell us what you will be sharing with us today in your presentation?
Well, today the presentation is a bit more advanced. Once you have your inventory balanced and flowing, what you want to do is create a flywheel effect where you are using new product introduction in order to push your business forward and upwards, creating a feedback loop that keeps strengthening your brands and increasing your profits. And I will show you where that comes into the business and how to do it. Now, we're not going to talk about how to get your inventory flowing correctly, but you really need that in order to get on the flywheel.
Perfect. Sounds good. So let's jump directly to the slides.
What I'm going to talk to you today about is the flywheel effect. And first of all, I will, of course, introduce what a flywheel effect means. Then we'll talk a bit about how revenue is distributed, the statistics behind revenue distribution, because that allows us to create, to differentiate our products into different groups and use that to create a flywheel. And finally, we'll talk about how using new products is very beneficial to accelerating those results and fueling the flywheel. So what is a flywheel? Business grows in three ways. One is you can sell at higher prices. Two is you can sell more items at the current prices to the current customers. And three, you add new customers. Now, each business has preferences to one of those, but all of them are relevant always. What the flywheel effect does is create a compounding effect that accelerates the growth. This means that instead of having just one A plus B plus C, one product and another product and another product, and reviewing all of them as separate business units, basically, we move to a compounding effect where we understand the connection between the products and the growth factors that we have and how they impact each other, of course, sometimes in a positive way and sometimes in a negative way. Sometimes when we invest in marketing for product A, we actually see lift in products B and C. Other times, a reduction in product A can negatively or positively impact the other products. The flywheel makes use of these interreactions to compound our growth and make 1 and 1 and 1 equal 5 instead of just 3. Now, what is revenue distribution? Here is an example from a client I used to work with. These are real numbers. This client had 50 different ASINs in Amazon, and these are the results of the accumulated annual unit sales per ASIN for all of these items. And I have seen this graph in smaller sellers with 20 or 30 ASINs. And I have seen these graphs in the results of huge department stores that have tens of thousands of ASINs. This is a distribution. This is just how things behave. And if we look at this distribution, we see it has several zones. The first 5 ASINs, just 10% of this product mix, created 45% of the unit sales. And depending on cost, it probably created more than 45% of the dollar sales. The first 20 SKUs or ASINs created 80% of the sales. And the last 30 SKUs created 20% of the unit sales. So there is a disproportion. And if I drill down even deeper and not look just at the total annual sales, but at the sales per month per ASIN, so in the front axis close to you, you see the same 50 ASINs, but then going deeply into the screen, you see the months of that year. This gives us, instead of 50 data points, 600 data points. And out of those, only 55 data points, that is 9% of the month's sales per SKU, created 60% of the sales. So not all SKUs, not all months are created equally. And this is very useful for us. This is known as the Pareto rule in distribution, also known as the 80-20 rule, where 20% of your input X creates 80% of your output Y, and vice versa. Whereas in retail, what we usually see is that 10% of the SKUs create 90% of the sales and income. And the rest of the SKUs, 90% of the SKUs, only present 10% of the sales. What we can do with this is then we can divide it into 4 sections. We have 4 types of products on this graph. Our A products are the best sellers. They are the top 5 or 10% that create most of our volume in sales and in cash. Next, we have the B products, where the knee happens, the curve changes. They're still good sellers, definitely not as good as the A products, but they have some volume. Next, we have the long tail products, products that sell small volume over a long time, and that adds up. And a lot of retail in e-commerce builds on the long tail because of the geographical reach, but those are still small products. And finally, we have the D products, which are the losers. They take up too much money or time or attention or all of the above compared to the value they create and the income they generate. And now we can create the flywheel, because we can create different ways of operation, different modes of operation for each type of product. The best sellers, we want to sell more to lift our graph up. And to do that, we mustn't stock out. Every time you stock out on a good seller, you're losing sales. Some of those will never be recuperated. You cannot get them back. The other thing we want is to add more SKUs and push our graph to the right. Have more SKUs that are selling well. To do that, of course, we need new products, because the current products have already found their place on the graph, and very little we can do to change them and move them to a different place. They might go up a little bit, down a little bit, depending on taste, depending on marketing, but basically this is the distribution right now. Then what we will do with the B products on the knee is, of course, we still want to lift our graph up and sell more of them. And in this case, we have to create the demand and meet it. We have to invest in making sure people are aware of them and people want them, whether it's by bundling them with other products, giving some discounts, not a lot. These should be very profitable products. Do not play the price game on them, because they already have the demand. Just try to bring in more demand by getting them exposure and making sure that when you do have the demand, you have something to sell and you haven't created the demand just to keep it unsatisfied and lose those sales. And we want to add SKUs, again, for the same reason. We can't move products from C to B usually, because that's where they naturally belong. If we want to have more B products, we have to have more new products given the chance to become B products. As for the long tail, first of all, before I go into what we do here, if you want to work on a loss leader strategy, lost leaders are supposed to live here. They're not good sellers. They are good attractions, but they sell other products, and that's perfectly okay. And what we want to do with the C product is, again, lift the graph up by selling more. And that means we need to find more demand for them, be it go to new markets, be it invest in marketing and promotions, whatever it takes, as long as it's profitable. Unless, of course, we're talking about a loss leader. Then we want to pay less, because this won't impact this graph, but it will impact our profits. We basically do not want to lose money on them. And two things are come in mind here. One is that we don't want to pay a lot of storage fees. We don't want to have a lot of inventory on these products because they don't sell a lot. And if we miss with our inventory and pay storage fees, it will eat up our profitability. And we also want to pay less for promotions and discounts. We already know for these products that they have a certain demand, and we don't want to waste our money trying to create more demand. So it does look like a conflict. You have to find your balance between what will you do to find more demand for these products and still limit the amount of money you're spending on promotions and discounts. The important thing for me here to say is that you don't want to create volume at the expense of your profitability on these products. And finally, we have the losses, the D products. What we want to do here is limit our losses as much as possible and pay less about storage fees. These are notorious for being high storage fee items. They get all the penalties there are. So work on reducing your storage fees for these items, not only in Amazon, but also in your 3PL, even in your garage. Storing something for more than 6 or 12 months has a fee, even if you're not paying money out of pocket. And you have to reduce those fees to a minimum. And do not pay for promotions unless you have a really good reason, because we already proved these are losers. And investing in those promotions will just lose more money. If you're doing a clearance sale just to get rid of them, okay, do it very carefully, calculate your losses and control them. But as a rule, don't pay money that will go down the drain here. And finally, we want to push our graph to the left by removing these SKUs and not selling them anymore, and cutting our losses on any inventory that is left. Do not get emotional about your SKUs. If it's not selling, if it's not profitable, move on. That's the most important message here, I think. And what happens when we activate the flywheel effect on our current variety is that the graph will start moving to the right and upwards, and finally it will start getting shorter. And that is a problem because our product base is getting smaller, and we need to do something about that. And following what we just said, there are challenges for each of the groups. Group A, the challenge is to never stock out. Have the inventory control systems, the inventory replenishment systems, the inventory balancing systems to keep yourself in stock at all times. And if you do not have those, look for something that will give it to you. Group B is maintaining profitability. Those are good sellers, but their inventory fluctuates and they become very tempting to go to price reductions to create volume. Maintain your profitability on them. Group C, the biggest challenge is keeping the inventory moving, not entering the slow inventory space and not letting the inventory die. You want to keep your inventory fresh all the time. And finally, with Group D, we're talking about how to cut the losses fast and replace these unselling SKUs with new SKUs and testing them. Now, where to put the cutoff point is very, very personal. First of all, don't lose money. If an item is constantly losing you money and you gave it 1 or 2 chances, cut it. Don't get emotional about it. Don't think of all you've invested in it. Cut your losses and move on. It's the most profitable thing to do. And then you have to figure out what is right for your business at the current time. How many SKUs do you want to hold? And how many do you want to introduce? And create a cutoff that works for you. And now let's talk about replacing those SKUs and introducing new products. Introducing new products is a very big gamble because we just talked about the distribution of sellers, and this distribution is correct for new sellers as well, for new products as well. Now, for each 10 products you'll introduce, we just showed you'll have about 1 or 2 good sellers, A or Bs, and 8 to 9 low sellers in the C and D group. But contrary to our current product mix, we don't know ahead of time which product will be in the good sellers and which products will be in the low sellers. We have intuitions, we have prior knowledge and experience, but sometimes it's right and sometimes it's way off. We cannot tell in advance. Now, if we guess that we'll be launching a good seller, which we always want, and we go for a lot of inventory because we don't want to stock out, but we end up with a low seller, we lose money. If, on the other hand, we decide to be very, very cautious and start with very little inventory in case this is a low seller, but it ends up a good seller, we're going to lose money again. And this is the conflict. Where do you want to start so that you don't lose on low sellers and you don't lose on high sellers? How to do that? Well, to get on the flywheel, we have to move from this gamble to a much more technical, analytical process where we have control over the unknowns. We don't know them and we'll never know them, but we manage and control them. And this is a process I will take you through right now. So first step, our step 1 is we do not launch losers. If we can tell a priori that a product is going to be a loser, we don't launch it. It's much better to invest a little bit pre-launch and test and check the market and then realize that we should not launch the product, then launch it and realize it afterwards. So do the market research with all the data sources that you have, such as Helium 10 or visible data on Amazon and Google, etc. Figure out where the market is. You don't want to run with the pack, but you do want to know where the pack is. And do pre-launch validation processes such as having a group of relevant people of your target market commit to buying it when you launch, whether it's a Kickstarter campaign or a Facebook group that is relevant for you. Whatever you do, you want to have a real validation. So not me and my mother and my sister saying this is cool, but rather agreeing to commit to pay, whether it's actually giving you our credit card information or even paying a small sum of money ahead of time. You need the commitment to pay to get a real validation. Step 2 is creating a rescue plan for any circumstance. So create your worst case scenarios. What will happen if I'm totally off? If it's a very good seller, but I didn't plan for it, I didn't order enough inventory. If it's a really big flop and I actually ordered too much inventory. Figure out what it looks like. What is the scenario for that? Don't do it, just figure it out. And then when you know that, you can create a recovery plan for each scenario. You can talk to your supplier and say, what happens if we realize after 2 weeks that this is the best product we ever launched, and we need you to create a new order in hyper fast mode and ship it by air? How much is that going to cost us? Can we have better payment terms on that? Can you cooperate with us? And figure it out. Also have a recovery plan. What will you do with the inventory if this doesn't sell well enough and you really need to get rid of that inventory? What price points do you want to be in both cases? And how are you going to manage that? And notice we haven't launched the product yet. We're still preparing. Next step is create a game plan to actually start doing it. Right now, up till now, steps 1 and 2 were only preparation for the preparation. And now we're actually creating our plan, our project. We want to start small and collect real data. Even if it's a big seller, how can we mitigate the losses of not having enough by starting small and limiting the exposure so that the big demand comes when we are ready and not before that? And also have the plan in place to react very fast. So you need to know the signals. How will you know what is actually happening, and what are you going to do when you know that? Now, next up, we also need to figure out what is a fighting chance for each product. Some products take more time to get to market. Some products have a very high peak and burn out fast. But you need to give each item you're introducing to the market enough chance to shine. If you put something on Amazon and you don't promote it, and it's not connected to anything, and it doesn't have any traffic coming to it from any resource, you just wait for the organic search to work its magic, and it's in a very competitive niche, you need to wait a long time for that to happen. And if you don't wait that time, you haven't given yourself a fighting chance to get a good seller. And if you launch and it doesn't work, you need to know how many chances you're going to give that item. Are you going to try a new marketing campaign? Are you going to bundle it? Are you going to give it a different price point? Try to move it to a different category before you call it a quits on that item and define it a D-seller and move it to the phase out products. Now you're ready to go live. Track the data from the get-go. Always know where you're standing, what is happening, how does this relate to the signals you were planning on, and use the plan to guide you. Guys, I know I do this a lot. I plan, and then when things happen in real life, I do something else. Stick to the plan. Always use it, because you spent time when you were very, very concentrated and not emotional to create it. And when you go to market and things happen, your emotions start running, and it's harder to make the best choices. The plan is there to support you when that happens. Once the product has been given a chance, it's run enough time, you start having enough data, graduate it from being a new product to being part of your product mix, and move it to the relevant protocol. You'll figure out if it's a C, B, or A product, or even a D product. You will have those. And sometimes you'll decide to give products another chance to shine. Maybe if it's a C product, it might be a loss leader. Maybe if it's a B product, it can benefit from moving to a different category, or being bundled as a child ace in another parent. Try stuff out. Give your product mix a chance. These things do take time. And if that doesn't work, eliminate items that don't have any potential fast. Leave up to your thresholds. Define your thresholds and live up to them. If you went for a 10% of items every 3 months, for example, that could be a good threshold. Then your bottom 10% go out, because what that will do is it will push your business up and up and up. You will have to replace those 10% with new items that have a 10% chance or 20% chance of being in the top seller groups instead of in the bottom seller group. And that is where the flywheel really takes off. And be willing to lose in order to profit. We've already talked about this. Money that you've already invested is a sunk cost. And sometimes you won't get a return on that investment. But replacing it with a new investment that actually can bring in 5x or 7x or 10x will cover that loss. Whereas holding on to that investment in hopes of getting that 1x, 1.5x, has very limited potential of actually creating a positive impact in your business and in your bank account. And to sum it all up, what the benefits will then be is that your unit sales will go up as you focus on good sellers. Your profit per sales will go up as you focus on good sellers that don't need so many discounts. Your acquisition costs of new customers will go down as you have good product mix to offer and your brand becomes stronger through this. And your storage costs will go down as you balance your inventory and focus on items that move fast. Multiply that by the number of products you have, which can grow in this process, but should stay the same at least. And your profitability and your profits will start going up and up and up on the flywheel. So thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at my email, orion@retail-ad-venture.com.
Thank you very much, Orion. It was interesting. Obviously, this presentation is for advanced sellers because if you're just starting, you have no idea to which category, to which type of products to assign your new idea. But those who are running the business, I couldn't really understand how to differentiate which product is type C and which product is type D. Is type D is like completely no sales, or how to find out?
It's extremely personal to the business. You need to have a threshold. So for example, you can decide that you are going to cut the bottom 5% on a regular basis, or you're not going to sell products that are less than 10% income than your top sellers, or any other rule. First of all, the first rule of D products is any product that loses money, you have to pay more for storage and advertising and hours a day that it's managed than you actually bring in has to go. Any product that doesn't sell has to go. But you should actually start nipping at the bottom of the barrel on the C sellers. So these are products that sell slowly and they have some profitability. But if you want to have more products in your top category, if you want to push your graph up and to the left, you have to get rid of the bottom sellers, the very, very bottom sellers. And mostly what these will do is they will take up too much time. They will need a lot of management.
And for the sellers, like what are the points in Seller Central, for example, where they can see the data to base on the decision on how to categorize their products?
Well, you have to download this your sales data and track it for yourself, whether it's through third-party partners that have that data or APIs or just manually. Amazon will not give you this information. But basically, when you look at sell-through, this is what they want. They want you to stop handling D-type products that don't sell. So you can look at your sell-through and start asking, and I wouldn't count on Amazon for anything in my business except for the raw data. But you can start off by saying, if Amazon says this is a very slow seller, this has a very low sell-through grade, maybe I shouldn't have it, because that will ruin your IPI and that will move up your storage cost and a lot of things. So the logic behind IPI and the logic behind creating the flywheel are very similar, by the way.
Okay. And what do you recommend for Amazon sellers to get rid of the products that you would categorize as losses?
Sometimes my recommendation would be get rid of them, throw them in the junk. Just get rid of them. Tell Amazon to burn them. Incur the costs of getting rid of them. But if there is potential, put them on sale at cost, even a bit below. Give it a chance to go out and bring in some cash. Move it out of Amazon and sell it on another platform, also a possibility. look for somebody who does liquidations and see if they would buy them for you for hopefully dollars on the dollar, not cents on the dollar, but a bit more than cents on the dollar. But again, the problem with those items are that they are costing you money each and every day. It's actually more profitable to lose on them once than to hold them on and to hold on to them and keep losing on them.
And what's your like a top tip for sellers to keep inventory balanced to never go out of stock?
The biggest and most important thing is to move to smaller, faster decisions. There is a very common misconception that when you buy big orders, when you make a big order and you buy in bulk for a few months, you get a cheaper deal. But we keep forgetting that we then pay for that cheaper deal day in and day out in storage costs that we incur every day. And we also limit our flexibility into decision making. We don't know what we don't know right now about what will happen in a month. Just by creating shorter, faster turnover of your inventory through smaller, faster decision making, your shipments are going to take the same time. It's just cutting them up into smaller pieces that will give you that benefit. It's not something that you can just call your supplier in China and say, I want shorter decisions. It's a process you need to plan for, you need to build it, you need to have the tools to do it. But this is what I do with my sellers.
So your processes involve a lot of know your numbers thing, right? So
totally. I'm a numbers and algorithm girl.
Yeah. So do you have any tip for some people? I don't know, maybe they're not yet ready to take services like yours, which more advanced, services. Maybe they are still considering themselves very slow, but they would like to implement your suggestions. But they are really bad in numbers. Is there kind of a software which in the industry of Amazon sellers, which could be giving some good information?
There are several software tools out there, software as a service tools like S.Ma.R.T and others. I don't have one that I prefer over the others. I think S.Ma.R.T is very good. I've worked with their creator, the people who created that software, and they are Amazon sellers themselves, and they have a very good understanding of the topic of inventory. But there is one shortfall that I find in all of those softwares, and that is that what they will tell you is, we will give you a good forecast. And then that's it. But the forecast is just the beginning of the process. You have to have the tools to use it, because forecast is not fact. If I had a product and I knew for a fact that I need 100 units every day for the rest of time, I would need a forecast and I would know exactly what to do. But we need a forecast because we don't know how many units we will need every day for the rest of time. And the forecast is a mathematical guess. Now, S.Ma.R.T has a lot of ways to help you improve your forecast, but it is still just a forecast. And what you need then is a way to manage your processes. You need the processes and the management tools to make decisions based on a forecast. Now, here's a mathematical fact. The forecast is wrong. We don't know how wrong it is. We don't know where it's wrong. We just know that it's wrong. Now, if you buy your inventory 3 months ahead of time based on the forecast, you then bought the wrong inventory. For small sellers, I have 2 tips for small sellers just beginning. 1, maybe 3, let's see. 1 is, don't try to hit a home run every time, because you can't. We just showed this. Not every new item you add is going to be a good seller. And if you're just going to say, I'm only going to sell good sellers, you will grow your business so slowly that everybody will get ahead of you and you will lose, because time is of the essence. If you have a good seller, if you're in a good category, people will come in, competition will come in. You don't have the time to wait things out and do things one by one, slowly. So when you're starting out, learn the system and grow. You need to get to about 10 or 15 SKUs in your category, in your brand, very fast. Now, very fast is not in a week. You can take a year. Sure, that's fast in my book. But don't try to grow very, very slowly, because there is a lot of power in numbers, and profitability comes as you grow. The next thing is, don't try to look for deals and cost cutting because you pay much more for that. Look for ways to move faster, make smaller, faster decisions. Now, I do a very complicated algorithm that looks at all your inventory and the connections between the SKUs and the statistics of the brand. Smaller sellers don't have that. On the other hand, they have much fewer SKUs. Trust your intuition on them and look for the JIT system of 2 trays. Basically, you're going to have one packet of inventory that is selling and a backup packet of inventory. As soon as packet 1 finishes, you move to packet 2 and order the next one. You need to plan this out so it works time-wise, but it's very easy to do. It's not very cost-effective. Next up is, do not put all your eggs in the Amazon basket. I know it's easy, but Amazon is fickle. It changes fast in unexpected ways. And there are other options out there. Don't put everything you have into Amazon. Look to grow outside of Amazon. It will give you a lot of balance and stability in the long run. I love Amazon. I work with Amazon a lot. I don't trust them.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much, Orion. It was a pleasure to hear what you have to share. I really hope that it will be very useful for especially advanced sellers. They will get some like clicks in their mind. Oh, maybe I should do this and that. I hope so.
I would start looking at this from 20 SKUs and up. Don't wait too much. Don't think that you need to be an 8-figure seller to look at advanced tactics. That's the way I see things.
All right. And one more time, could you tell us how people get in touch with you? I know you already showed the email address, but maybe you can repeat it.
Yeah.
And how could you help them?
So I'm on LinkedIn by my name, Orion Avidan. That's the easiest way to find me. And I check LinkedIn very, very frequently. You can also email me at orion@retail-ad-venture.com, ad with a double D. And I help with balancing the inventory. So once you have that forecast, or even before that, I can help you figure out how to get your inventory in balance so that you can get on the flywheel. And get on the flywheel, do the NPI, new product introduction process. And I also do simulations. So if you have a big decision to make, you're not sure you want to go there, you're not sure what's the best decision to make, I can help model that out for you and show you what the results will be. What will happen if you do big shipments at a very cheap price versus not take an opportunity for a big shipment, but have much better inventory flow. That's, for example, one thing we can do.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Orion. Thank you, Lisette, and good luck in your business. Bye-bye. I hope this video was useful. If you would like to know more how Orion helps Amazon sellers, you will find the links below for her contacts and her website. And now I would like to invite you to watch other video, which is very popular on our channel, where we talk about A+ content or enhanced brand content, which is very important to increase your sales of your Amazon product.